Judaism is supposed to be attainable, but how? This is such an important question as we draw closer to the high holidays, to Rosh Hashanah next week. We are supposed to try to fulfill all of the commandments of the Torah, and it just feels so beyond us. But there's a way to do it. And the Torah tells us in this week's Parsha, one of my favorite verses, Ki ha-mitzvah hazot, because this commandment, Asher Nochi Mitzavacha Hayom, that I'm teaching you today, God says, and it could be referring to tshuva, coming back to Hashem, which is why we always read this before the high holidays, Lo nifleiti mimcha. This task of returning to God is not beyond you. It's not in the heavens, Lo b'shamayim hi, to say that you have to say, well, I'm going to have to go travel up to the heavens to grab it. V'lo me'ever layam, and it's not beyond the sea to say, Mi avar lanu et devayam, who's going to go and cross the oceans and to be able to bring this Torah back for us? No. Ki karov elecha hadavar me'od. Judaism is close to you. Beficha, in your mouth, ubilvavcha, and in your heart to do it. And the rabbis asked the question, why does the verse say beficha first in your mouth, ubilvavcha, and in your heart only afterwards? Shouldn't what comes out of our mouth express what is already in our heart? The Torah should say heart first and then mouth. Why mouth first and then the heart? And there's a beautiful story attributed to the late and great Rabbi Levine, who used to visit soldiers during the British Mandate. And these soldiers were not terribly observant, and one of them, a bit of a cynic, came over to the rabbi and said, you know, before you walk in here, they're not even wearing kippot on their heads, they're smoking cigarettes, it's Shabbat, they're not taking this seriously. Why do you give them so much of your attention? And Rabbi Levine answered back, he said, you know, I'm a short man. I can't really see what's on top of people's heads to see if they're wearing a kippah or not, but I can look into their heart. I can see their heart. If we want to be able to affect our heart, then we have to start praying, and we have to start saying the right thing. The reason the Torah says beficha ubilvavcha, in your mouth and in your heart, is because we can't always control everything going on in the heart. The emotions are complicated. But what comes out of our mouth and the prayers that we're going to be starting to say, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, this is the time that we start intensifying our prayers. Please join us for services, outdoor safe services at MJE for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. This is the time when we start affecting our heart by what comes out of our mouth. Beficha, your mouth, ubilvavcha, and in your heart. What we do in terms of our actions can always influence what happens internally. If we want to make changes inside of who we are, we have to start what's on outside. My blessing to you is as we come into the Shabbat, is to remember that the Torah is not me'ever layam, it's not beyond the sea, it is not b'shamayim, it's not in the heavens. The Torah is real, it's concrete, it's something for you to say and do. And please God, by doing that, we'll be able to influence our hearts and our emotions. Shabbat Shalom.